toasting, joking too. Sipping and roasting is what we do. Light 'em up, drink 'em down. Whiskey and cigars all around. Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like the beginning of a party.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine podcast video extravaganza. I've completely lost my, I do that every show, and I blew it this time.
Do we need to start it again?
No, I'll just try to correct myself. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine podcast, radio broadcast, and video extravaganza known internationally.
Hi, Mom.
As the world famous Smoking and Toasting. The well came out fine, but for some reason I couldn't say the thing that I've been saying for 293 episodes. So, but welcome to Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Even if
those things are good.
Even if I can't do the intro properly. And we are on show number 294. Today. Our show today will be all about Michigan beers and 9 great cigars under $7.
That's a good show to have halfway to 333.
Our special guest is Michael Curtis. Michael is from Michigan, as you might have been able to tell from his shirt. That is your alma mater.
That's right. And if I'm going to do this correctly, I go, fire up, Chips.
Oh,
and there we go.
Okay. See, Michigan inside jokes. It's kind of like
what is happening here?
It's kind of like I always wonder when people watch King of the Hill and they're not from Texas, like how many of the jokes they miss.
Right.
Because there's so many jokes in that show that are Texas specific, you know?
Well, our mascot or school is the Chippewas. So we always say fire up, Chips.
Fire up, Chips.
And we are known, how can I delicately, more people spent time watching the game in the parking lots before the cops kicked them out. So we might have threw one back or two at my time at the school there.
Well, it works for me. It works for me. So welcome, and thank you for coming in. Now, Ian, how do you two guys know each other? Because you're friends, right?
He married my sister.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. So you inherited him whether you liked him or not.
I did.
Fortunately, he has pretty good taste in beer, I guess. So.
I mean, if he didn't show up, then we'd still be stuck with her.
Yeah,
I think being married now, he's obligated. Like, he has no choice because, he doesn't want to deal with his sister or his mom.
Okay. Well, family. That's the way it always is.
They're tough
with
cookies.
Family. Well, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you and thrilled to talk about Michigan beers. We've always, had a kind of a soft spot for Michigan beers. Ian, of course, from having family in Michigan, has been up there and has explored some of the offerings that the state has, and we've
some breweries up there.
We're both big fans of Bell's, and
you got nothing better to do all winter, I guess, because it's snowing. So you brew really good beer.
Although we do wonder a little bit about you coming to visit Texas in August.
Well,
it's not the
Well, I live here now. I came about 14 years ago, and what's funny about all these breweries, they all popped up after I left.
Oh.
And I'm like, what the hell? Like, I leave and all the breweries start popping up all over.
Let's see. So how did you procure these Michigan beers?
This last July drove up there and had to take a boat across water to get to an island just to get the beer, because that's the only spot you can get it is on an island. So
I love it.
This was from my heart to go the distance.
I'm very excited. So you sent us a list of some of these are the beers, some of the brewery, but Great Turtle Brewery, that's the one on the island, right?
Yeah, that's Mackinac, which is the word Mackinac is like the Great Turtle, so that's where they got the name from.
And this brewery is on the island?
It's on the island, but because of the laws, they can't brew it on the island. They actually brew it off-site, and then they bring it to the island. Bring it to the island, and it's an island only of horses and bikes. So when they get it off, you got to put it on the back of.
The boats are allowed to go to one spot.
Yeah.
And then you got to,
trailer.
Horse and buggy. You can't write with a fountain pen either. You have to use a stone and chisel.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, that might be going a little far.
Yeah, I get it. Well, so the Big AFT Double IPA, is that from Mackinac or is that separate?
Well, the brewery came out, started in 2020, and one of the things about Mackinac Island is like rich of traditions and different things. They have the sailboat races that come up there from both Port Huron side and Chicago. So the Big AFT, if you see, we don't have the picture when we get Mr. Twirly gig up there, and show it. It's a turtle resting on a sailboat.
Okay. Well,
so it's a special one
right.
for that.
Look forward to that. And then Rusty Fender Red Ale, is that also from Great Turtle?
It is, and being that there's only bikes on the island, that's kind of going to the Rusty Fender kind of deal.
Now, we are familiar with New Holland. We've got the Dragon's Milk Solera, and the, I don't even know how to pronounce Kuhnhenn Brewing?
I think it's just Kuhnhenn.
Kuhnhenn Brewing?
Because Kuhn is Kuhn, and then it's hen, H-E-N, and so Kuhnhenn.
So, all right. Well, and that's the double rice IPA.
Yeah, and that one I got to give credit to his cousin Mark. He's the one that gets those ones, and he and Mark have the same spirit, the same everything. And when you look at the
pretty well when we were kids.
And when we get to them and you see the APV, and you're like, yes, those two are in line.
All right, perfect. Well, this all sounds great. And then we've got some Glenfiddich Pure Malt whiskey to taste that Ian brought along today. So thank you for that. I came in empty-handed today. I'm feeling, very light on my feet. Yes, it's
light and free.
It's a very interesting thing. Well, I'd like to, before we go any further, I'd like to pause and pat ourselves on the back and congratulate us here at Smokin' and Toastin'. Because what I can tell you, and this is absolutely true, Smokin' and Toastin' is in the top 4% of all podcasts. Top 4%.
I'm not even sure what that means.
Well, I can tell you. Apparently, according to a new study that was just released, only 4% of all podcasts are still active and produced a show last week. Well, we are active. We produced a show last week.
Interesting.
We are now in the top 4%.
Yay, us.
Yeah. Aren't we cool? I thought that was interesting. Well, we've talked about pod fading before and how, so many people start podcasts and then they're not able to keep them going. It is a lot of work. The reason, and I think this was the genius of this particular show, if you don't mind me putting it in these terms.
No, you go ahead.
The way that I think we've been able to keep on keeping on is because it is a lot of work to do the show.
It is.
But it also includes drinking.
Yes.
And sometimes smoking. And these are incentives, I think, that make it easier to come back each week. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, if you consider this as a job, a lot of people for their job, they go and work all day, and then they come home and have a beer and a cigar if they imbibe in cigars.
Right.
We just do that for our job.
Right, which is a pretty cool thing.
Which makes our job a little easier to deal with, even if it's a lot of work.
Pretty.
Except for Keegan.
Absolutely.
He has to do all the work.
By the way, speaking of Keegan, who is on the board today, engineering the show, I also want to recognize that this week, today, in fact, the day the show drops, is our producer in the cloud, Adam's birthday.
Oh.
And between Adam and Keegan, they make the show happen every week. And so we officially want to dub this the Adam's birthday show. Producer Adam. So happy birthday, Adam. And I promised that we would sing.
You ready?
Yep. Ready?
3,
you want to give
2,
me a chord?
1.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Adam. Producer in the cloud. Happy birthday to you. Now, see, Adam, we like you that much that we were willing to drive away the entire audience of the podcast. Early on, we have only you are left listening.
That happy
now.
Birthday needs to be its own video.
Yeah, it probably does. It probably does. And I'm sure Adam will come up with it. I would not be surprised. So anyway, top 4% of podcasts. Happy birthday, Adam.
That's a good day.
As if all of that wasn't enough, we will have drinking news on the program again today, as we like to do, and we have to now because it's become something that people actually wait for. Some people don't even tune in until late in the show just to catch drinking news, is what I've been told. Our drinking news teaser headline for today: Florida is very, very strange. So there's your teaser headline. We'll get to that coming up.
Also, I just want to point out that as we were sitting outside last night having a cigar, we were talking about drinking news, and we thought that the obvious follow-up to drinking news or offshoot It doesn't have to be after any drinking news. Our offshoot will be drunken news.
Drunken news, right?
Yes.
I like that. That'll be the spinoff.
Yes.
That's the spinoff. I like it. Drunken news.
My solo project.
So watch out, Adam. Alan Denny's going to steal that for his show.
You know he
Drunken
is.
news.
He's totally going to run off with that one.
Well, welcome to the program, ladies and gentlemen. I think we have a lot of cool things to talk about. There's a new. You might find this interesting, Ian. You can now spend the night in a Pabst Blue Ribbon hotel room, completely themed as an 80s Pabst Blue Ribbon vibe.
Does it leave a bitter taste in your
It
mouth
does,
and
it
make
does,
you wish you
yeah.
spent more money?
Yeah. That's exactly what it does.
No, by design, those Pabst Blue Ribbon cans are pretty darn cool.
Yeah.
And that blue ribbon, I think, was earned sometime in the 1800s.
Also, speaking of bitter taste, Miller High Life has announced that they are now making, and none of this makes sense to me, but here's what it is. Miller High Life is now making an ice cream that tastes like a dive bar. First of all, who would want that?
What does that mean?
I love dive bars, but I don't want to taste them.
Oh, no.
That's just nasty.
Like, ew.
So we'll get to that and a lot of other cool things, some cigars to watch for, and plenty of beer drinking. How many beers do we have in all for today's show? 4 beers for today's show, and some whiskey. So this is gonna go well. I have a feeling. So anyway, very cool to have you on the show, Michael. We appreciate it. He also brought me a little care package of some Hawaiian rum.
Yes.
Actually from Hawaii,
Yes.
right?
Well, I mean, in Kauai is the wettest place on the planet of rain.
Right.
Well, what does it take to make rum? Sugarcane and water.
And water, yes.
They have 2 things they have plenty
Well,
of.
that totally works. Well, being a big fan of rum, I can't wait to taste that. So thank you very much, and it is very much appreciated. So I guess, Ian, this brings us to the point of the show, where I love to ask you if you've had the opportunity this week to smoke anything interesting.
I don't have a point, but here's the best blunt end I can come up with.
Okay.
I said blunt.
What is happening on today's show? See, it all started with me messing up the intro, and we just devolved, I think, from there. And we haven't even hit drinking news yet.
Today's show, Michael Curtis in the studio, or lowest common denominator.
Right. So tell me about your cigar.
So I sat out on my patio earlier today, and I lit up a cigar. It was a Partagas number 1. Also known as a classic or a natural.
Yeah,
It's got the yellow label. It's just Partagas number 1. It's kind of a boring name, actually.
Is it Partagas or Partagas?
Partagas.
Where does the emphasis?
Look, I don't know how to say this, man. But
which syllable
Partagas,
does the emphasis go on?
Partagas.
We know what it is, at least. Yeah.
I
don't know which one is
just
right, though.
phonetically go with it. You'll find it in the shop.
Yep. Got it.
So this was the Panatella, or
Lancero?
Lancero, sorry. I kept thinking Lonsdale. But 6 3/4 inches by 43 ring gauge. So it's skinny, long and skinny cigar. A nice looking cigar. Had a Cameroon wrapper on it. Mexican San Andreas binder, and filler is Mexican and Dominican Piloto Cubano. I think it's like Cuban seed. Is that what that means?
Yes, I believe so.
The appearance, light brown, somewhat veiny in texture, dried leather to the touch, single band yellow and red. Pretty simple looking cigar, but very classy looking. Feels good in the hand, like you have a quality cigar.
Point to it.
Oh yes, right here. Sorry, in this picture. I forgot about that. In this picture right here. The pre-light draw on this. I used a punch. As a matter of fact, I used this real pretty punch that a friend of mine got me. And it had a light draw to it, sweet and cedar, earthy, with a hint of barnyard going on. You'll see the punch in the picture over here.
Yeah, right.
The initial light on this, cedar and white pepper, tangy leather. Retrohale is cedar and sweet pepper. Pretty simple right off the bat on a pre-light sniff and the pre-light draw. And then the initial light just backed up with something, pretty simple as well. The first third of this, sweet tobacco and earth, set the tone for this classic number with a slightly spicy undertone of white pepper and a kiss of cayenne. The earth and woody notes blend in harmony with the sweetness and leather. Retrohale is cedar and white pepper and slightly sweet. Solid ash, perfect burn. The second third of this cedar takes center stage along with fresh notes of cookie and gently toasted bread. Earth and sweetness are the pedal tones that keep all the other notes rooted. A constant pad of spice provides the interest throughout this composition and even the intermission between puffs. Retrohale is cedar and sweet with a hint of spice. Solid ash. Perfect burn.
You're waxing poetic today. I like it.
The last third of this, toast and spice, are the theme of the final movement. The sweet and earthy pedal tones are a bit more dynamic and alternatively clash and resolve with the leather and fresh cut fresh cut cedar notes that we've been experiencing from the beginning. The performance is a bit frantic and takes its toll on the overall structure of the cigar, which looks like it may unravel. See this picture over here. The last notes are a bit bitter and leave the audience in a bit of confusion, but with a sweet taste on the lips. The retrohale is cedar and pepper with campfire. Solid ash, perfect burn. Let me translate a few things on that.
Okay.
So first off, the unraveling part. It actually, when I got towards the last third of this, the cigar actually had a little split in the
split in the wrapper.
And I started to do a couple things. I got them in that picture that you saw over here a minute ago, and then but it never changed anything about the burn. The burn stayed right on the entire time, and it smoked fine. It did get a little bit bitter at the very end of it, in a slightly unpleasant kind of way, but only at the very end. So by this time, you've had 90% of the cigar that you're going to smoke anyway.
Right.
This was an $11 cigar.
It's a lot for a Lancero.
It's a lot for a Lancero. Lanceros always cost a little more anyway, just due to the nature of they're more difficult to roll. But this is an $11 Lancero, and all told, if I didn't have any splitting in the wrapper and the bitterness on the end, I probably would have given it a solid 5. I gave it a 4.5 because even with the splitting on there, it smoked perfectly.
Yeah.
The little bitterness on the end was a little bit of a tragedy because you didn't get to smoke that last,
down to the nub,
down to the nub part of the cigar. But, at that point in time, it's enough cigar. I feel like you got, most of your money's worth. So 4.5 is what I give it on the price to quality scale, just because it's because of those couple little things.
And it wasn't a $6 cigar. It was
expensive.
Yeah.
And but I will probably buy another one and see how it stacks up against it because the flavor profile was good.
Our buddy Jorge at Stogie's here in Houston, that's his favorite cigar size. He loves the Lanceros.
He loves the Lanceros, yeah.
Big fan of them. I enjoy them occasionally, but I find I'm mostly a Toro guy these days.
Well, the Lancero, due to its size, because it's such a small ring gauge, you end up with a lot of wrapper to
filler
ratio. And that adds a lot more of that wrapper flavor versus some of the bigger sticks that
you're
the surface
more
area
filler.
of the wrapper is not as intense.
You're talking more filler. Well, if you've ever seen or heard this show before, you probably know that I'm something of a fanboy when it comes to
Gurkha.
Yes. How did you know? When it comes to AJ Fernandez,
I know,
he is my cigar hero, right? Major mainstream cigar companies have been turning to AJ more and more over the last few years to blend cigars to rejuvenate their brands.
And boy, has he done an amazing job.
Well, he really has. H. Upmann, Punch, Romeo and Julieta, Hoya de Monterrey, Montecristo, just to name a few. And today I decided I was going to smoke the Montecristo Nicaragua series, which is, in fact, blended by AJ Fernandez. It isn't even the first Montecristo that AJ has blended, but it is the most recent.
Because he had that one that was just called Monty.
Right, Monty by AJ.
Right.
Actually, it's Monty by Montecristo, AJ Fernandez. I think is the way it is actually
That
named.
was a great cigar.
Yeah,
I remember
it absolutely is. And this one is the most recent. I honestly don't know how he even keeps track of the blends at this point. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like because he's done so many of these things for so many different things. And then he has his own line of cigars as well. So
I feel like these companies are just following him around. Like anytime he drops a napkin or something, it's just got some masterful blend on it.
It's like, ooh, look at this. Well, the Nicaraguan Series Toro, it's a Nicaraguan Puro. with all the tobacco grown in Nicaragua. It's a medium brown color with just a little hint of red to the tobacco leaf and a little bit of oiliness to the surface. A very enticing, very pretty cigar. The pre-light sniff and draw gave me rich tobacco notes along with earth and some cedar. I used a punch, very similar to the one demonstrated and displayed earlier by Ian.
In that picture over here.
And I lit this baby up so I could proceed to experience a Nicaraguan pepper blast.
Oh, so nice.
It was bold and intense, and it made me want to sing Bee Gees songs, which I will.
Why does the Nicaraguan pepper blast make you think of Barry Gibb?
Because that's my Nicaraguan pepper blast song. When you come up with one for the show.
Well, now I have to come up with two because I'm going to have my own that does not involve Barry Gibb.
Well, that's fine. But until you have that, when I think of the Nicaraguan pepper blast song, I think of Barry Gibb singing, Nicaraguan pepper blast, Nicaraguan pepper blast.
Oh my gosh! All right, that's it, folks. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
There's nothing else we can do here.
Cheers, y'all. Honestly. And I'm really sorry, Michael, that this show has degenerated. The very show you get to come on, and it's just degenerated into this.
Well, I do watch, and I have been watching in the last year and a half, and keeping up on the shows. And we were sitting talking, like, I'm a 1 to 3 cigar person a year. And we were just talking a bunch, like, I'm going to the name brands like the Padrones or other stuff. So it's a little hard for me to still venture because you guys got such a wealth of knowledge.
Well,
come.
We've just smoked a lot of cigars. That's all. It really isn't about knowledge. It's just about how many cigars.
No, it's called research. Sir.
Research.
Oh, yeah. Unless, by the way, my doctor is watching, in which case it hasn't been that many.
True. Yeah. But your energy and imagination to it, it's like, okay, I can be a little more bold and want to go try something when I'm running across that store and you find, like, I think they were talking about that one. Let me give it a try. Especially that price to quantity point.
Yeah, and if you're looking at it and you remember the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast song and you're looking for a Nicaraguan Pepper Blast, then that can really...
If that song is stuck in your head.
Yeah. Well, where can you get that? Is that at Specs or do you go to your... What's the place you usually go over here?
Specs has a great humidor in most of their stores. The Casa de Montecristo is one of our favorites.
There's lots of great...
is a favorite, yeah.
Stogies is great. There's lots of great cigar shops
So when
around.
I'm singing that song on the way out and the cashier's looking at me all, side-eye, and I'm like,
just
keep
blame
going.
us. Just blame us and keep going. Yeah, and hope they don't follow you to your car. Speaking of cigar stores, by the way, I just saw the headline that Cigars International, they've opened that big store in San Antonio.
A buddy of mine just sent me a text on this earlier
Yeah, they're opening
today.
a store in Katy.
Yeah,
which is in our, Katy is part of what we would call the greater Houston area. And we say greater, we mean greater. I mean, this city goes for days. It's just a huge thing. But Katy is one of the more popular suburbs of Houston, and they're opening a CI there. So that'll be very interesting. Because
it'll only be, that's nice because it's still, quote unquote, in Houston. So that means it'll only be 45 minutes away at freeway speed.
That's freeway speeds. Perfect. Well, so back to the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast, which I so successfully derailed the whole show singing about. It was bold and intense, and once it settled down, then here came the toast and a note that was a little bit like peaches, but minus the sweetness, like maybe right against the pit sort of peaches where it's got just that tiny little bit of bitter, but it's still pleasant. It's not a sweet peach sort of thing. The pepper remained, but it was not nearly as prominent, of course, as it was at first during the NPB. By the second third, I had a nice peppery tang on my tongue, and the rich tobacco notes really took center stage on this cigar. A bit of toastiness developed, which was something I don't notice a lot of in AJ's blends. You don't think of toast when you think of his cigars.
Pops up.
The peach-like note dominated the retrohale, which was very pleasant. Final third saw the pepper take over as the primary vibe, with the earth and a little bit of coffee bean showing up as well. Notably, I did not get notes of chocolate. which so many of AJ's cigars are known for.
Yeah, being chocolate.
I mean, if you smoke a Bella Artes Maduro, it's almost like a chocolate cake.
Yes.
It's so chocolatey. The burn was near perfect, and the cigar never got too hot, staying smooth and a little bit creamy all the way to the end. The Nicaraguan Series Toro was medium-bodied overall, not quite as strong as many of AJ's blends, which have a tendency to be north of medium or even full. But it still had a very Nicaraguan vibe to it, I thought, which is interesting because when I think of Nicaraguan cigars, I do think of them as being stronger. And this was, I wouldn't say it was mild, but it was definitely medium. I really enjoyed it and found it to be a very relaxing and somewhat subtle smoke. Cigar retails for about $12. I felt it was absolutely worth it, with the one caveat being that AJ has some other blends that come in around $8 that are really just as good. But I won't penalize the Nicaraguan series for that, and I'll recommend it. I'll give it a solid 5, price to quality. I did not feel like I overpaid, is what I'm saying.
Right.
That said, you can find an experience as good as that a little cheaper. In fact, we're going to steer you today on this show to 9 great cigars under $7.
Ooh.
So that's
a list.
Yes, I have a list. I have it right here, actual paper list.
An actual paper list?
Which
What is that?
Crazy.
What is that thing in your hand?
It's out of Cigar
What are you
Snob magazine.
doing?
Yeah, I know.
Is there coupons with that? Like you get cutouts?
I actually went online to try to find it online so I could just call it up on the iPad like I normally couldn't find this article online. So I ripped it right out of the magazine. Ripped it right out of the magazine. So anyway.
Awesome.
But I do recommend that cigar. It was a very enjoyable smoking experience. That was, I guess, what I came away from the most. Is it was a very chill, kind of light and easy smoking experience, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
So very good. All right, we have to take a break because it's Beer 30, and when we come back, we're going to start tasting some of these Michigan beers. Do you have a favorite in mind for us to start with?
Where should we start first?
I'm thinking turtles. You were all excited about turtles at the beach last week. Let's just go for it.
Turtles all the way down. We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. We are the program that is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. At least I got that part right. We're on show number 294, and Michael Curtis is our guest. We're going to be tasting some Michigan beers. While Ian pours that, let me tell you about some cigars to watch for that should be headed to shelves near you. The Timeless Cigar brand is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, and its new owners, Fiat Otego, are honoring the milestone with a limited edition smoke called the Timeless 10 Years, which started shipping out to retailers this week. The new owners are, in fact, the reason that we want to talk about it here, because Timeless, the brand, is no longer owned by Nat Sherman.
Right.
And their parent company, which supported wildly unfair and restrictive laws that were proposed for premium cigars.
Did you add that all in there?
What's that?
Did you add that whole last sentence in there, or was that in there?
This is just me talking.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm just telling you.
I thought you were reading an article. You're so professional.
Well, so this was made in the Dominican Republic by Quesada Cigars, which also produces the Timeless Prestige and Sterling now. So Quesada, great cigar makers. Timeless 10 Years is made in just one size. It's a Robusto Grande, 5 3/4 inches by a 54 ring gauge. Now, here's the thing. It consists almost entirely of Dominican tobacco, save for just a little bit of Nicaragua leaf in the filler blend, and the suggested retail price on it is $18.50. So this is going to be an expensive cigar. Now, you can get the regular Timeless stuff for in the neighborhood of $8-9.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting. And the retooled Nicaraguan El Baton brand by J.C. Newman
Spanish
Cigar.
for the baton.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for clearing that up. That's J.C. Newman Cigar Company that does this one. It headed to retailers yesterday, and it has new packaging and a slightly stronger blend because it is made in Nicaragua. El Baton now has an updated band and box design with bolder fonts, larger letters, and gilded trim to evoke a bit of a classic look. J.C. Newman was founded in Cleveland in 1895, and they first made the El Baton back in 1914.
Wow.
Back when cigars were rolled with Cuban tobacco and sold for a nickel each. This one will not be selling for a nickel. But it sounds pretty interesting to me. Ecuadorian wrapper, Nicaraguan blend, and it's going to sell for right around $8 to $9, depending on where you pick it up. So a couple of new things to watch for. There's a little less new cigar release announcements right now because everybody did it for the big convention, which was about a month ago. And so there's a fewer coming out, but there's still a few things to watch for. And I'm excited actually about Timeless. I intend to purchase one of those $18 Timeless cigars.
We have to try
and smoke it on the for the show and be able to talk about it. So,
although they are $18, so you just purchase one and we'll cut it in half.
Okay, fair enough. We'll each smoke half of it. So we're starting with the Michigan beers, and Michael, why don't you tell us what this is that we're about to smoke?
We're about to smoke.
This show is just off the rails. What are we about to drink?
Well, we're drinking the Great Turtle's Rusty Fender Red Ale. This was recommended. Well, just let me give her a shout out. Megan, amazing bartender up there. I had a million questions going, because I want to know, how you make it, what's the fun part about it. Ian, we sat and talked to me many times that part of going to a brewery or grabbing beer is getting the story and the experience. How'd you get here?
Yeah.
And, she's like, you got, because I was like, hey, I'm gonna take this back for a podcast and stuff. She's like, take this one. I'll guarantee it. And if you see the picture on it, for all those on radio who can see this, it's a little turtle on a bike because with Mackinac, you only can ride bikes. No cars are allowed on the island.
No cars allowed on the island.
You can ride a horse too.
You can ride a horse, and you
have to get the horse over there.
Well, and you do have to be careful because
there's
you can
less
get
cleanup after a bicycle ride. Let me put it that way.
I hear you.
Ooh, yeah, that is very much true. Something going around with a pooper scooper pretty much the whole island. But you do have to be careful, even on a bike. You drinking a lot, there are cops up there who can give you tickets for drunken
cycling.
Drunken cycling.
Wow.
Maybe speeding.
Wow. All right.
So
this is a red ale, and the turtle you said is on a bike, and this is. You said something during the break about Tippy the turtle.
Yeah, I think the name, if I remember correctly, they like to call it Tippy.
Mm-hmm.
Not tipsy.
Not tipsy, exactly. That's where I was going.
Maybe because I was drinking at the time.
He does look like he's having fun on this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the artwork is really, really nice. This is coming in at
very cool
4.8 ABV.
I was just about to say it's very drinkable.
Very
it just
crushable.
goes down real easily.
Like a very summer beer for us two on this side of the table, but
And often red ales can be a little heavier. This one is not.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is I forgot about this, and I almost brought the Cougar Paw Red Ale.
Oh, that's a great
for our show beer, but I ended up getting the Buffalo Bayou instead. This says on the back, it's a shell of a ride, an easy drinking red ale with a great balanced flavor. Cara Munich and roast malt lend to the pretty reddish hue and smooth malty finish.
Yeah, it definitely has malt on the finish, that's for sure, and it's got, to me. Like, if you've ever had, a Killian's Red Ale and you're like, okay, this tastes so much better. I'm not necessarily knocking Killian's.
No,
I'm just
Killian's is not good.
This is a smooth, easy to drink.
Compared to this.
But very malt-flavored beverage. It's really good.
Agreed. This is, it says on here, 7452 Main Street, Mackinac Island, Michigan. And then underneath it says, brewed and packaged by Right Brain Brewery. In Traverse City, Michigan. So they're brewing off, and they're basically the way it works for people who don't know. If you have a quote unquote brewery, there's a chain restaurant around here called BJ's, which when they outgrew their own brewing, they ended up subcontracting St. Arnold's to brew a lot of their beers. So basically, it's hey, I've got this recipe, but I don't have the facility to brew it. Can you brew this recipe for me?
Sure.
So it's still legit. It's not like they're outsourcing everything, but it's still legit. It's their recipes and those kind of things done at a place that has a facility to be able to do that. So
explain this to me again. The beer can't actually be brewed on the island?
Yeah, I went there last year, the same brewery, and I was asking that, and they the laws restricting the island. They want to keep things picturesque, pristine, the old traditions, and doing this just doesn't
But
just
they
doesn't.
let them have the tap room there.
Yes.
But they just have to bring the beer over in a boat, I suppose.
And then I take it back across on another boat to take it back. Literally.
Reminds me of that, what is that whiskey that's aged in the sea? Or is it a
Oceans,
rum?
that Jefferson Oceans.
Yeah. It's it's kind of like that, I guess. It gets a little boat trip across, it gets a boat trip back.
Yeah, and in the, what was I going to remember about this brewery too? Oh, they also just get into the spirits business, and I wasn't allowed to buy on site. I had to go someplace else to get it, so I didn't get a chance. But I went to a place similar, and Mackinac Island is known for their fudge. And it's really funny because there's like 12 different fudge shops, and they all say they're the original and they're the best. Voted number one.
Of course,
voted number one.
Hey, we're in the top 4% of all podcasts, so you can find something to crow about, right?
But they use the fudge in some of the rum. They're like, you'll see at the bottom the sediments of fudge at the bottom, and I'm like, that is interesting. I mean, I had a little shot of it. It was okay. I think it was different. But I give the clap for boldness to take a chance and say,
sure,
let's put some fudge in here, see how this would do it.
Well, it's a really cool concept, though, having the tap room on the island that you have to go to. I mean, you have to really. I mean, I'm lazy. Like I'm so spoiled. I got Eighth Wonder and Total Anomaly are walking distance from my house.
I'm a little jealous of
and
that.
when I want to get in the car and drive for like
because it takes
10
me 8
minutes,
minutes to get to those places.
I can be at Great Heights or Buffalo Bayou or some of those places.
That reminds me of what I'm truly here for. Is for the beer exchange program. Like I come over here, so now we have to do this, reciprocate and send it this way.
We absolutely will.
I'm trying to start this program, make it go worldwide.
I really want to do this. This is something I've said on the show a number of times, is that if you want to send beers from where you are, we will send you some of the best that Texas has to offer in return. That's just how we like to roll, And it gives us a chance to taste things from other areas because the show's seen and listened to all over the place. But we don't have access to some beers.
I mean, it is international.
Yeah, it is.
Well,
and world famous.
My question is, does this turn into a Smokey and the Bandit situation where you guys go across state lines?
Yeah, with a trunk full of Coors or whatever. I suppose so. Well, I think this red ale is delicious. I really, really like this. This is, I'm taking it off a twirly gig to look at it, but Rusty Fender Red Ale, and yes, that turtle does look like he's having a good time.
It's quite good. So, very crushable red ale.
Yeah. I like it. Any thoughts, Ian, about this that we didn't cover? Any thoughts about the
No, it's good.
flavors?
It's malty and delicious. It's got a crisp backbone to it, and it leaves you with a little bit of that malt sweetness on the aftertaste, which is really, really nice.
And one of the great things about it is it doesn't taste like a dive bar.
No.
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so in collaboration with Tipsy Scoop, the treat that Miller High Life is coming out with includes a peanut swirl to mimic peanut shells that are always found on dive bar floors, as well as a hint of tobacco and smoke flavor. This is not a joke. This is not from The Onion. Miller High Life is releasing an ice cream bar that is supposed to taste like a dive bar. I don't.
Does it have that truly enjoyable stale beer stench, and not to mention the slight, depending on which way the door is open and the air is going, the little waft from the bathroom, from the urinal cakes?
I think that's covered by the Miller High Life part of it. So that's where you get some.
What
of
about
that.
the Marlboro Reds? Ash?
Oh, right, yep. So listen, dive bars are great fun. I mean, they can be very smelly,
with a delicate kiss of a urinal cake and cigar ash.
I just don't know if I need that in my ice cream. I'm a vanilla guy. To me, there is no greater ice cream than a really great vanilla with chocolate syrup.
Look, there are a lot of things you can do with ice cream, but vanilla ice cream is the king of all. And the reason for that is because more than any other ice cream, you can add flavors to that vanilla or add mix-ins to that vanilla.
Exactly.
Or all those things that really, really work well. You could do that with other flavors, but none of them are quite as accepting as vanilla.
And I would even challenge some good old Michigan maple syrup, because this is a shot at Vermont. Because I listened a couple of weeks ago, Vermont #1 in beer. I don't get it.
Yeah. No, but Vermont has some great breweries.
Yeah.
But unless they're going
that
like
Raider from?
unless they're going per capita, because it's a very small state, you know. And I don't. And I've told you about being in Vermont, right? You can't order like a beer and a shot and take them both.
That's truly annoying.
The bartender has to hold the beer for you while you do the shot, and then you put down the empty glass. The bartender, unless that has changed since I was in Vermont, it has been a few years, but that's weird.
That's really weird.
Yeah, but liquor laws are weird everywhere.
Yes.
You know, that's something that's true. Are there any strange Michigan liquor laws?
Well, kind of some similarity, like, unless it's changed, the last I remember, you can't buy it till noon on Sunday.
Yeah. That, by the way, recently got rolled back
to
here
10.
in Texas to 10 a.m.
I think that has probably to do with the Cowboys, probably, and the Houston Texans are like...
So I'll tell you the story. About 20 years ago, a buddy had tickets to a Dallas Cowboys football game and invited me to go with him. And so we show up. And we're, meandering around outside Texas Stadium. It was before it was AT&T or whatever. And we're meandering around. There's all these booths set up with, food and drink and what have you. And I was like, well, let's go ahead and get a beer. So we walk up to the beer stand and say, we'd like to buy a couple beers. He said, I can't sell you beers. Oh, not until noon. Okay. So he sold us instead a $7 stick of celery. Oh. And gave us a beer.
That's the food. Yeah, that's what you do here.
Nice.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But $7 stick is the most expensive celery I've ever had in my life. But it was worth it.
Well, I think the
that
thing.
celery tastes like beer.
Well, I know this could happen in other states, but I took a buddy up to Michigan once, years and years ago. And it was so much fun to go at 1:30 in the morning to the grocery store, and you could still buy liquor. And there's like nobody in the store, and we're like, we're buying some liquor. And I'm like that doesn't happen in Texas.
That's true. The best liquor law that I remember, and I may have told this on the show before, but I don't know if it's still the same. But when I lived in Massachusetts, when I lived in Boston, you would go to a liquor, beer, and wine store. You couldn't get beer and wine at the grocery store like you can here in Texas. But you could go to a big liquor, beer, and wine store. Cappy's was the one that I used to go to. Big store, kind of like a Specs, had everything, And but those were all closed on Sundays because that's the Lord's Day. Except between Thanksgiving and New Year's when they were allowed to stay open on Sundays.
When God said you will make more money.
Right.
Or your family's coming into town and we need a reason.
Basically, people were driving across the state border to New Hampshire or one of the other bordering states and buying their liquor on Sundays, and they were just losing too much tax revenue between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So apparently, you should not buy liquor on the Lord's Day, except during the holiest time of the year surrounding Christmas, right? That's just that's one of my favorites.
It's important to keep that law intact.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. All right, it's important to keep the show intact as well. So we're going to try some more beer here in just a moment. What are we tasting next? We'll come back and do it in the next segment.
I think next we'll go with another great turtle.
Oh, I'm liking this turtle. This turtle has got my undying devotion.
I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this one's pretty cool. There's some good stories about this one. I learned a few things about this.
All right, so we'll get to that when we come back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Thank you for watching show number 294, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 294. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Our special guest is Michael Curtis, who has brought with him beers from Michigan, and so we're just absolutely thrilled to be doing some sampling and some tasting. And just as a general reminder, we're in the top 4% of all podcasts. Just wanted to say that again. Yeah.
Hashtag winning.
Absolutely.
Well done.
Hashtag Charlie Sheen. So we've got this one spinning on Mr. Twirlygig now. This is another one from the Great Turtle Brewery, and this one shows the turtle. What is he piloting a boat there?
Yep.
Yeah. It's and this is for Bruce because I remember. I thank you, Bruce, because he helped me out on this. They do sailboat rates from Port Huron up to Mackinac City races and from Chicago up there. So this is the beer that's kind of in that spirit. Okay. And Bruce was posting on Facebook like tracking the ship. So I was able to use that tracker to know, like, I don't know, it's like 300-400 sailboats that come through that island. They came out with this last year as a seasonal one-time special, but people liked it so much. Now it's like one of their main staples, as I was told. The funny story is we were up there during the Chicago race, and there were some big storms that came across Lake Michigan. And I don't know if you know anything about the Great Lakes. There is a lot of shipwrecks that happen. So it is a very, very dangerous.
The wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, for God's sake.
Yes. Yeah. And we were leaving when the sailors, a lot of them coming in, and the person we were giving our bike rental in, they're like, you're lucky because it's about to get crazy. Because those guys were thirsty, guys and gals were thirsty. And they were like the night before, we stayed on one night on the island, and some of the early ones that were there, they were having a good time. And the official party was the next night. So
it wasn't even the official party night. So.
So
that's good.
This one is based off of like the sailboat race, and it's I don't know how many year tradition, but I think it's been going for a long, long time.
I have to tell you, this smells so good.
Well, I know here we do a lot around the tall ships thing with the tall ships. In fact, St. Arnold Elissa, that's named after a tall ship.
Which is parked right outside, right by, what's the name of the restaurant?
I've been there,
right
I've been there and eaten dinner there. It's a pretty good restaurant on Galveston Island, Yeah.
Oh, this smells
blanking on the name of it. Yeah, you can actually see it when you're sitting on the deck.
And
at that restaurant.
From inside the restaurant while you're eating too, if you're by the window.
I'm totally blanking on the name.
If I remember right, they said, the nice citrus finish. That's what I can smell before drinking it.
So this
has a very fruity smell.
Big AFT. It's a double IPA. So this is what, about 7%, I would guess.
7.2.
That's so good.
Stow the sails, tidy the lines, and hoist to brew with us. Big AFT double IPAs loaded with Citra hops for a nice citrus finish.
So I can totally see why, if this was a seasonal, why they decided to extend it and make it a year-round.
Yeah.
Because I could see a beer like this
being is a good IPA.
Very, very popular. Yes, very balanced. A lot of times when you get into a double IPA, the bitter starts to ramp up real high.
It can be pretty hardcore.
And if it's not what you're into with IPAs, it can be a little much.
But if you don't balance it with malt,
right,
to tamp down some of the bitter,
and with citrus too.
I could taste the dryness on my tongue a little bit. Like a few minutes afterward, you can see you can like, you got it. But
Citra hops is a wonderful plant.
There's a little bit of a lingering pine coney aftertaste, not totally in a bad way, but just as a descriptor.
Yeah, it lets you know you've had an IPA.
I don't like beers that are too pine coney. This is not what I'm saying. This is, but there's a little bit of a lingering bit of that that's really.
It is delicious though.
Yeah,
it really, truly
and
is.
as I was telling you, like in the break there, that they're hoping to go outside the island and sell someplace. I mean, they're only 2 years old. 4 to 8 now beers, getting more popular. Hopefully they can branch out and you don't have to like literally drive and
somebody
take a boat
there's coming up with the recipes.
Right.
And so far 2 out of 2 they've been really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. So. They for a brewery that's got, what'd you say, 8 beers?
8 beers. Last year I brought up or gave you I think it was the Hobart Street. It's the dark one, or it was a stout.
Yeah.
And that was last year. One, and so I think that one, and then like 2 other ones I can't remember, but yeah, now up to 8. So
yeah, we were trying to figure out what Hobart was. I think
it's the name of one of the main road, and there's a giant hill. You remember the turtle that was a little wheelie?
Yeah,
you can get a speeding ticket going down that hill. They tell you
on a bicycle.
On a bicycle.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's why he's going wee all the way down.
Right. All right, I want to point out, if you're a police officer in an area that has to pull over bicycles for speeding tickets.
Yep.
You got a pretty good job.
Yeah, you got a pretty good gig going.
I mean, come on.
So what do you
I'm a little envious.
Wave them over, Yeah. Hold up a red flag. Whoop,
come on, buddy, or I got this stick I'm putting in your spokes.
Yeah.
Where did that stick come from?
How do you pull someone over?
This is a really good IPA. I like this very, very much. In fact, this has got me wondering if these guys will ever distribute down here. Because this would be a regular purchase for me.
Yeah,
I'm digging it. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Smoking and toasting. We still have a little bit of splaining to do on drinking news, and we also are going to tell you about these 9 great cigars under $7
right now,
or next on Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. We are the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we're on show number 294. Our guest this week, Michael Curtis, who has brought Michigan beers, which we're going to get back to in a minute. Well, we have a little whiskey tasting to do first. And while Ian pours, I want to start with you on this list, which comes from Cigar Snob magazine, by the way. 9 great cigars under $7. And I apologize for holding this right in front of my face, but I just had some vision correction surgery this week, and so I'm still a little blurry in the close-up vision. It's supposed to get better, so looking forward to that. All right, they start out with several cigars that got 91 ratings in Cigar Snob magazine. These cigars are all under $7 retail, and they start with the Oliva Siri G. Now, we already know Oliva makes great cigars. I mean, this is just a quality cigar company.
Man, they're so good.
And
the Siri G is fantastic.
The fact that you can grab a Siri G for under $7, I mean, that says a lot right there. It really does. The Hoya Black, another Nicaraguan cigar, this is one of the brands that was taken over by Drew Estate, and they have kept the Hoya Black at an under $7 price point. It rated a 91 in Cigar Snob, and it's on the list as well, as is the EPC, a New Wave Connecticut from EP Carrillo.
Oh.
Now, so it's interesting to see a milder cigar like that on this list, but this one is under $7, came in at a 91 rating in Cigar Snob magazine. The Diesel Sunday Gravy. Have you had a Sunday Gravy?
I haven't, but we talked about those.
Yeah, we've talked about it
a few months back. Those coming out.
I got to get one of these. This is a very inexpensive cigar, and it is a Nicaraguan cigar, and it was rated a 90 in Cigar Snob. The Charter Oak Connecticut, another Nicaraguan cigar. In fact, almost all of these, the EPC New Wave Connecticut is Dominican. There's a Honduran or two on this list, and then everything else is all Nicaraguan on this list. So very interesting. But the Charter Oak Connecticut is a Nicaraguan cigar, despite the fact that it is a lighter-bodied cigar, and it rated a 90 at Cigar Snob. And then the Zino Nicaragua ranked a 90 as well. And I didn't know Zino had a cigar under $7, to be honest. I think of Zino as one of those sort of high-priced brands.
What's the name of that one?
The Zino Nicaragua.
Because I tried one of the Zinos. Just give me 1 second while you're doing it. Because I tried a Zino that was the inexpensive Zino a while back.
And you weren't too pleased with it,
was
were you?
not.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of companies that do a better. Yeah, it was the Nicaragua Robusto. And let's see here. I gave it a 4 at $6.55. I gave it a 4 rating.
Very interesting, because at that price you would expect it to do better.
Yeah, I mean,
interesting.
I just think that at that price range, there's a lot of companies that just make a better cigar than that.
It did make this list.
They don't have that cool Z on there.
It'd be really interesting to maybe smoke another one and see.
And Jay-Z may not smoke it.
Yeah, that's true. And that could take some points away right there. The Crowned Heads Juarez. This is the one with the bull on the cigar band. Came in at a 90, and it is a $6.95 cigar. Suggested retail. The JFR. It's the Corojo. Yeah, the JFR Corojo, also a Nicaraguan cigar, comes in at 90 points, and the HVC Pan. I'm going to have to look at this. Yeah, that's what I thought it said. Pan Caliente, the HVC. And that's not a cigar I'm familiar with. It's a Honduran. It's a Honduran cigar. Did you review that one?
I'm almost positive I did that one too. And I like the HVC stuff.
Yeah.
So if I did a HVC, let's see here, HVC. How do you spell HVC?
I would go with an H and then a VC.
No, so I did the Robusto 5x50 Nicaraguan Puro. And I gave it a 5.5 at $6. It's just not a very expensive cigar.
Yeah, nice.
See, for the same price, a cigar like that over that Zino.
Over the Zino. So you're not a fan of the Zino?
I just didn't like it much. I didn't like it enough to remember that I didn't like it very much, too. So some cigars are kind of on the border where it's years later, I'm like, did I like that or not? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. By the way, while we're kind of taking in the nose of this whiskey, I just wanted to mention, because one of the things I don't think we talk about enough on the show is pairings. cigars and spirits because it can be
I'm
a
already
tricky
married.
It can be a tricky thing, like I said. But last night, while enjoying a cigar, I poured myself. I was smoking an AJ Fernandez San Latano Churchill Maduro.
Nice.
And
you were in it for the long haul last night.
Yes, I was. And I poured myself a little bit of the Clandini single malt whiskey that I bought for our little excursion down to Manning's place. Man, those two went together so well. And I thought I got to remember to mention this on the show because not everything. Most of the time, if you've got a nice whiskey and a good cigar, they're going to go together on at least some level. But these just really, as Ian likes to say, they formed like Voltron.
Yeah, you got to love that.
And it was just one of those special moments. So highly recommended as a pairing if you want to get to that. Meanwhile, I was kind of sniffing the nose on this one, and malt is what I'm getting.
Yeah, and I'm trying to find some information about this thing. I got this bottle from a friend a long time ago.
Is this a regular release even?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
This is an old bottle. And weird. Check this out.
Oh, it's a screw top cap on Glenfiddich. I'm so surprised. Usually it's the removable cork.
And the internet is all over the place on this. Someone who's faster and better at this than I am. But this very bottle is pictured here for $454, and then right next to it is pictured here for like $49.
Maybe one of them just got an extra zero. Wow.
But this was given to me by a friend of mine. He bought it years and years ago. And so this bottle's pretty old. I don't know if there's a date on it at all, but this bottle's real old. And it had the neck cleared out of it and a little bit of the top. And there's no telling how long he had it. I mean, he probably had it for 10, 15 years before I got it.
Wow. So this may not even be something they make anymore, perhaps.
But yeah, the internet's kind of all over about it. I was trying to figure out what the deal. There's no prices for USA, and it's hard to find here and there. But yeah, and the pricing is kind of all over the place. But I don't really know what the story is, so we need to get Dave to tell us what's going on. We need Glenfiddich Dave to call in on this. I'm going to send him a picture of this and be like,
yeah, what's up with this?
Yeah, what's up with this?
So Ian, what's your take on the taste on this? First of all, it's not subtle.
This is well, that's a nice way to put it. This is the Glenfiddich Distillery Special Reserve Pure Malt, single malt Scotch whiskey, product of Scotland, distilled and blah blah blah. You know all that stuff. Pure malt Scotch whiskey is produced by the 5th generation of an independent family company. It's bottled at 43%. So it's a little bit bigger than most. This is a 750 ml bottle. This is a bizarre bottle shape too. This is their weird triangle bottle shape. Okay,
that's a Glenfiddich thing, isn't it?
What's weird? Yes. What's weird about this is next to this on my shelf, I have a bottle of the 12-year-old, and it's the combat bottle, but it doesn't look. I mean, it looks very, very marginally larger than this, like almost not. And it's crazy. Something about the shape of the bottle. It's just hard to tell how much is going on with it. There's not a whole lot of information other than that. Glenfiddich, which in Gaelic means Valley of the Deer, lies in the heart of Scotland distilling district. Glenfiddich is a single malt whiskey distilled and matured to perfection in Speyside since 1887. Really just don't have a whole lot going on. They got the stag on there. They got a screw top, which is just weird.
You know, I need to replenish my Glenfiddich. The Glenfiddich that is matured in IPA casks.
Oh yeah.
That is a wonderful whiskey, and I am completely out.
So tell me what you think of this. I'm interested because I've had quite a bit of this before.
I think it's huge up front. It just like assaults your taste buds and your senses, and I don't dislike that. But it is not what you might call an easy sipping whiskey. I mean, it's
punchy
to be dealt with.
Yeah,
right?
It's punchy.
Yeah,
it's a little bit big. It's got a little bit of a bitterness to the malty thing, and then it finishes with like
minerality,
sugar and mineral. It's like tons of sugar and mineral in the finish. It also has a little bit of a smokiness going on in it.
Yes, it does. It's not quite like a peat smokiness, but there's some smoky undertones to the finish. I feel like it finishes out with the minerality that let you know it's a Scotch. You know what I mean? Because it feels like Scotch whiskey always has a little more of that minerality to it than
turbinado sugar. That's the sugar I'm tasting.
Oh, yeah. I definitely get that. I like it, but it packs a punch. I mean, this is not a subtle.
How are you feeling about this?
Well,
you're not a Scotch person.
I know.
All.
Be honest. I'm a little nervous at this segment of the show because like I don't want everybody to know like, you know, like when I put it this way, like
spit it out at me.
Exactly. Like if it was a Jim Beam or any of that or Jay, I mean, I'm gonna smell it and I'm gonna like I have this instant like pass. And I don't really drink much whiskey. I don't know much about whiskey, but just sipping it, I'm like, this is smooth. I can feel a little burn, but I don't feel that all of a sudden like and
the clench of the throat.
They're like, oh.
I'll be honest with you. This is not my favorite Glenfiddich. It's interesting, Glenfiddich.
It sure is interesting.
And I don't know how much the spirit has suffered just for how old it is and having been opened.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to tell because there's going to be some some evaporation to it, you know, and that kind of stuff. But it's interesting, and it does leave a definite heat in the back of your throat. You know you're drinking a whiskey.
It's one of those that I'm really, really glad I got to taste. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even if it might not be what I would buy and drink all the time.
Now, here's my question to y'all on this, because you're talking about pairing cigars with the whiskey. This makes me think of like the old days of gentlemen. Like, I'm going to have a cigar and brandy. Like, so what would you pair with this? And you solve the world problems over this kind of stuff.
It would need to be big, I think, to be able to deal with this particular
This is
whiskey.
one that I sniff when I'm doing my whiskey sniff, and I pass by it most of the time. Just because I have some, I think, things that are better offered. But I think now that we've talked about it, maybe I'll see if I can find something that fits with it. But it's going to have to be something.
I would almost think like a diesel or
it's going to have to be something pretty
something
big.
hefty, you know.
I just put a little drop of. Oh, okay, interesting. I've never tried it with a drop of water. I just put a little drop of water in it.
What does it do?
There's kind of a buttery flavor that
interesting.
Just popped up. That's interesting.
Because I wouldn't have said buttery at all, undiluted.
Put it on your nose. You'll smell it immediately. Like it just comes up with kind of a buttery.
Oh, totally. It's totally, almost like a buttered toast.
Yeah, like very, very different from the way it smelled with no water. And that was just the smallest splash of water.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Actually, so a splash of water does this much favors.
Okay. Good.
Interesting.
Good. Very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't like really not like it by itself. It's certainly not my favorite in the Glenfiddich line. But that splash of water, I guess I hadn't tried that. And that does a lot of favors.
Now you may have a new appreciation.
Yeah, maybe the bottle won't last any longer.
For the pure malt. Well, it's been around for a while, so it's lived a good life.
Then I'm waiting for me to drink the last bit of this.
What are you doing for Christmas?
Glenfiddich Dave calls me and goes, "No, that's the rarest of the rare."
Right, exactly.
Ian, can you say something for me for Christmas? You know, for that one brother-in-law that you actually do. Well, actually, you like all your brother-in-laws, but make sure to say.
I know where you're treading. I get it. All right, so let's do the beer. We were going to do another Michigan beer in this segment, and it'll be interesting to see how it follows that.
Normally, I don't let people tell me what to do.
But
it is beer.
Yeah, I was going to say if the command is let's have a beer,
let there be beer.
You can follow that.
This is the Kuhnhenn. I think that's how you spell it. So it's spelled Kuhnhenn. So Kuhnhenn is what I'm going to call it. Okay. If I'm totally off on this, then you guys can.
I was trying to look it up before we came over here, and I hope I'm not butchering this, but I think it's German. It could be because there is not too far north of Detroit is Frankenmuth, like a huge German Bavarian.
Frankenmuth. That doesn't sound German at all.
Yeah. So I think there's some tie into it, but Detroit is so interesting that there's pockets of Polish, Czech, like so many different countries known for making great beer.
Right.
So this is the Kuhnhenn Dripa, Dripa.
So that's a double rice IPA.
Yes.
So interesting, double rice IPA. I've not heard a lot of IPAs described as rice IPAs. So obviously that has to do with one of the ingredients of the beer. It's also an interesting, very golden. It's not it's not more brown or auburn like some of the IPAs can be. This This actually pours almost like a blonde ale, just in terms of the color. So very interesting.
Yeah, very. A little bit of a not light straw, but kind of a medium straw color.
It smells citrusy, big time.
It's like all I can smell is citrus, really.
Oh,
It's
wow,
interesting
that's really
when I first popped it open, I smelled a little bit of a maltiness, but now I'm not.
Ooh, baby, that's good.
I could be sitting on a boat in the water drinking this.
Totally. This is good.
I had no idea how much this would be good. Double Race IPA. This is wow.
And the ABV on this 9.5%. So if you are drinking one, these are
9.5,
be
wow.
careful.
Yeah, so that's almost what you would call an imperial or a triple.
This has an incredibly nice sweetness to it that you don't get in IPAs generally. It's a very different kind of sweetness, and it brings me back to, remember a few months back we had a rice beer on the show?
Yes.
And it was terrible.
It was not good at all. In fact, I was worried about this one for that very reason.
I can't remember who it was from, but it was from a company that always makes beer that we love. But it was terrible. So when he brought up the double rice IPA, I had no idea what to expect. I kind of had that in my head, but this, it doesn't have that malt profile like you'd expect in a big IPA. It actually has a thinner kind of beginning to the palate.
Right.
And then has this very sweet thing going on along with that very like double IPA bitterness happening.
When you get an IPA with the ABV as high as this one, I expect it to be a little rougher in front.
Yeah,
you know,
it's to be a little
to
punchier
punch you a little
yeah.
bit. Yeah, and this one really doesn't. It's not until the finish that you go, oh yeah, that is a double. Yeah, yeah. It's really delicious.
That's like every sip
I mean,
tastes a little better than the last sip too.
If you think of something like More Cowbell, for example, by Buffalo Bayou, I mean, it lets you know right away you are dealing with a high ABV
you're wrestling with
IPA.
that one a little bit from the beginning.
Yes, and this one kind of sneaks up on you a little bit.
This is good.
Really is.
I just want to go again. Thanks, Mark. I mean, he's the man.
Yeah, Mark.
Very cool.
I mean, we're staying at his house. He's pulling me like, here, try this one. He's pouring me some whiskey here. You're trying this beer. Try this one. I mean, yeah, you two are. You could tell those two are related for sure.
I got to make some time to get together with him.
Runs in the family. All right, we're going to take another break. We will be back. Drinking news is coming up. Plus, we're going to try. We have one more beer, right?
You got one more beer?
All right.
And we know we're going to like that one.
Yeah. What is this one?
It's the last beer is going to be the Dragon's Milk. But this is the Solera, so it's Dragon's Milk, which we've had before, but this is the Foeder-Aged ale.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Foeder. It's going to be wonderful. I think. I have a feeling.
It's an oddly small feeling bottle. I think it's just because all the other bottles were kind of bigger.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get to that coming up. Plus, drinking news right around the corner. You are checking out Smokin' and Toastin'. Love this IPA. I never can figure out the right noise to make in that third one. Welcome back. It is Smokin' and Toastin'. This is our
long inhale.
Maybe, oh yeah, maybe like a drag on a cigarette or a cigar. You know, just like a.
Especially those old movies where you light it up once, take one puff, and you throw it on the ground. You're like,
yeah. And don't you love those movies where they light the cigarette or the cigar, and it has that burning sound.
Right?
Yeah, the paper. Yeah, love that. It's like a good that little song bumper. That's very noirish, right? It's got that kind of a vibe to it. It's got
the guitar player's got great tone.
I've heard that said. Yes, I think it was by you. I think you said that.
I probably may have said that.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now to the point of the program that we inevitably wind up at. And it is the part of the show that, for some reason, I can't explain it, has become one of the most popular things about Smokin' and Toastin'. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for those stories that may or may not be about drinking, but are always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
Never gets old.
You didn't even remember recording that, did you, Keegan?
That's why I was laughing. I was like, I know that voice.
Well, we've all been there, right? You're wandering around a fairgrounds area. You're in the woods. You're completely naked. Just, picking.
This sounds like the beginning of a Scooby-Doo episode.
just picking berries and, staying on the lookout for small, cute, furry woodland creatures.
Can I say zoiks right here?
Yeah. Oh, and you're brandishing a machete.
Oh, okay.
That just took a dark turn, didn't it?
Right.
See, we were at small woodland creatures, and now the machete. So it happens to everyone, right? And then you think to yourself, hey, I should get some clothes.
There's a difference, by the way, between just carrying a machete and brandishing one.
That's true.
You do know.
Brandishing is,
Yeah, I mean, brandishing is.
It's the act of the brandish.
Yes.
Yeah. So you think to
Nicely
yourself, I should probably get some clothes. And then you look out across the woods and you see another person, maybe a surveyor who's roughly the same size as you, and you think, that ought to do.
Oh, well, I mean, where else would you get clothes?
Well, that's what predictably happened in Volusia County, where a Florida man, buck naked, threw a machete at another man and tried to rob him of his clothes last week. Yeah, deputies responded to an area near the Volusia County Fairgrounds after a surveyor reported that a naked man approached him with a large machete-style knife. Now, let's flip the script here. Imagine you're the surveyor. You're out there doing your job. You look up, and here comes a naked man with a machete. That's got to give you some pause, right?
What's the first thing you see, the machete or the waist down?
Yeah, I don't even want to know.
Depends on which one he's swinging in a wider arc.
The victim told deputies that the suspect was picking palmetto berries in the woods and then ran out of the bush brandishing the machete and demanding his clothes, wallet, and phone. Surveyor said he began to give the items over to the suspect when the naked man hurled the machete and a handful of berries at him. Deputy said the handle of the machete hit the victim in the chest, and he was not harmed. The berries also created no significant damage. So
let's unpackage a few things here.
Yeah.
So you are in need of clothes, and you've already got sustenance.
But you have a machete.
So you've got one of these basic things that you need to survive. You've got sustenance, right? Mm-hmm. You also have a weapon to not only protect yourself, but to brandish at other people.
Yeah.
So as you can procure the other necessities. So one of the other necessities is clothes. So this guy had sustenance and was procuring clothes.
Right.
And then he disarmed himself.
By throwing the machete and the berries.
And
he not only disarmed himself, he
alleviated
lost his sustenance.
Like, he's losing right now. He doesn't know how this works.
The suspect then fled into a wooded area and then took off in a white Dodge Challenger, according to the sheriff's office. Here at Drinking News, we always like to recognize when law enforcement does a good job. The negative stuff gets, plenty of press, plenty of attention. But in this case, we'd like to highlight the fact that a clever responding deputy realized the circumstances and suspect description were actually similar to another incident in August of 2021 involving a man named Brandon Wright who was found running naked in the same area, according to authorities. So deputies soon received another report of a naked man, this time outside a gas station in DeLand. The sheriff's office released aerial video showing a police helicopter spotting the naked man, who authorities identified as, you guessed it, Brandon Wright. The suspect is seen laying down on his stomach in the parking lot as officers took him into custody without incident. The 34-year-old, Brandon Wright, has been charged with attempted robbery with a deadly weapon, because he was trying to steal clothes, had the machete, attempted aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, because he threw it at him, and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, I guess also because he threw it at him. He's being held at the Volusia County Branch Jail without bond. His prior convictions dated back to 2009 and include possession of cocaine.
No, I wouldn't guess that.
Possession of a firearm / ammunition by a convicted felon, battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting an officer without violence, and kidnapping and false imprisonment. This story, of course, continues to beg the question.
What?
Why are so many of these people who wind up in a Drinking News Florida Man story naked? What is it?
Because clothes can't hold me down, man.
Why would anyone...
Clothes restrict all the movement.
Why would anyone go out into the woods naked? I mean, Florida...
there's a lot of mosquitoes.
Florida is a veritable petri dish of mosquito breeding.
That's no bueno.
You can be completely clothed in Florida and be eaten alive by mosquitoes. But at least it's a little less likely that you'll be bitten on your private parts. So there's that. No. And if you've ever had a mosquito bite on your genitalia, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It is not a pleasant experience, and people are going to wonder about you if you're, constantly scratching around down there.
As a man, you get to understand the pinch and roll really intimately.
Bottom line, put some freaking clothes on. And if you're going to attack someone with a machete, maybe learn how to use it so you don't wind up hitting the guy with a handle in the chest. Sort of defeats the purpose.
I mean, maybe it was a perfectly balanced throwing machete.
Perhaps it was. Perhaps it was. And one more thing. Palmetto berries suck, okay? It's not the tastiest of the berries, is all I'm saying, right? If you're going to strip down to your birthday suit and bring along a machete,
bring chocolate.
Yeah, find some better berries, something. That's all I'm saying. Reporting live from Florida, where I just swatted a mosquito away from my nutsack. My name is Cruze, and that is your
Drinking News. That's our time for Drinking News.
Cheers, y'all.
You ever seen that show, Naked and Afraid?
No, I've heard of it, but I've never actually watched it.
They actually talk about that, when they drop them off in the jungle and their private parts are messed up for a while, male or female.
I can only imagine. Like, yeah. Well, Florida is the jungle when it comes to mosquitoes.
Yes.
I mean, you might as well be. Like, it's a petri dish.
I just gotta say, all those reality shows, Naked and Afraid, Survivor Man, all that other stuff.
Alone.
There's no way. I almost starved to death. Except for Craft Services was right there behind the camera.
That's true. The cameraman had to be there, so somebody's not dying.
Right. Somebody's
eating. Somebody's eating around here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure they're going to let you starve on set.
If they wouldn't give you any, imagine how painful that would be watching your cameraman eating a ham sandwich while you are literally starving to death. That would suck.
No, the people would be dying.
Yeah, that would suck.
There would be violence.
The only one of those shows I'll watch is Ice Road Truckers.
Oh, that one's so good.
That's just cool.
Yeah. I don't know. You see them driving on that, and they get the camera, and they see the water underneath the ice, and you're like,
these guys are nuts. They're nuts. I mean, you hear there's a shortage of just truckers in general right now. There's got to be only 2 or 3 people that'll do the ice road.
Well, there's you have to drive onto the ice in a very special way, slow and easy. And stuff.
I saw it in the Liam Neeson movie.
So you know it's true.
There is a Liam Neeson movie where he's an ice road trucker.
Oh, noted.
A man with a particular set of skills.
He is
back.
That's right. And they involve driving.
Very specific
on ice.
set of skills.
Oh, man. Well, I think it's time for us to break into our last beer. What do you say? It's right over here, and it is the Dragon's Milk Solera. I'm excited about this. But then again, I'm excited about most beers.
There's that.
Yeah.
I'm going to use this here.
You're smoking and toasting fancy
Smoking
opener.
and toasting.
Very nice.
And just for a fun fact, Michigan can have its fair share of giant mosquitoes and crazy people going across ice, like when they get the lakes up there.
So at least the mosquitoes, though, all die in the winter. See, what happens here in our hometown of Houston is some winters it doesn't freeze. And when it doesn't, man, the mosquitoes are really bad the next year.
This will be my last personal use of this.
Oh, you were donating it to the cause. Very nice. Very nice to our guest.
Wow.
It's kind of like taking home the home version of the game. It's sort of what it's like, you know.
That's right.
Remember when they used to do that on like Jeopardy? You'll be taking home the home version of Jeopardy. Like that would be any fun. To
Nobody.
play.
Wait, what happens if I make the negative 500? You'll be just going away with nothing.
That's right. That's what your mother said last night, Trebek.
Hey, leave the mothers out of it.
The penis mighty.
I was just watching one of those Celebrity Jeopardy clips just recently. That may be one of the funniest Saturday Night Live clips ever.
Oh, especially when Trebek comes out himself.
Oh yeah. It's just great stuff. That the sweaty balls.
Yeah.
Sweaty
That's
balls.
like one of the greatest of all time.
And then speaking of, like John Goodman when he comes on and he's like, "What's your three things?" And he's like, "Bread, meat, barbecue sauce." Can you say that slower for our listeners one more time?
I tell you what, I love John Goodman. I think he is such an exceptional actor, greatly underrated. And you know when you watch him,
Brother, Where Art Thou?
when you watch him in any of those Coen Brothers movies, he's just spectacular, just spectacular. In Lebowski, he's great. Like,
Yeah.
he's just fantastic. All right, so what are we trying here? This is New Holland.
Yep.
This is Dragon's Milk. This
Okay.
is aged in Foeder casks.
And for those of us who aren't all that bright, what are Foeder casks?
They're
Casks that held Foeder?
Put your Foeder in.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Aged in a series of American oak Foeders. Foeders is a style of cask, by the way. Using a blending technique known as Solera, nuanced flavors of caramel, toffee, and fig. And I get all that.
Solera has to do with the sun, right?
I would assume so.
Okay.
Let's see. Create an experience made to be savored. This legendary ale will continue to evolve with each pull from the Foeders, becoming more complex over time.
Yeah, I get that.
Dragon's Milk is such a outstanding beer anyway. The first time I tried it, I was in Michigan, and I was going to one of my niece's weddings, and we stopped by a store that had some local beers. So of course, I filled up my cart with Bell's and a few other things, and my wife found Dragon's Milk and decided we had to have that. I was like, yeah, put it in there. And I've been a fan of it ever since. And now you can get it locally around here really easily, but you can't get all of the. You can get
The special
some,
ones, yeah,
but you
yeah.
can't get all of the special releases. And this is one I've never seen around.
This is quite good. This is almost barley wine-ish in its date and fig vibe.
It's not a very dark color. It actually is a more barley wine color. You were about to say?
No, I was looking up at the website because I was even curious. And Dragon, like they have like 5 different kinds. I thought like this is just a one and only spinoff.
Right,
like no,
right.
it's like their whole identity as a brewery is around Dragon's Milk and then like different flavors or profiles of it. So I thought that was really cool.
Our and I haven't seen this one, but our guest next week that will be on actually I think has 1 or 2 of the different ones in the fridge.
Really?
That I may be able to talk him into
Into bringing with?
bringing with. Yes.
I love when we talk other people out of their really cool beers.
I mean, that's a show beer.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, it's one of the things that's always interesting to me is when I'm setting aside beers to bring in for the show, I'm like, oh, yeah, but I kind of wanted to drink that one.
You're like 1 for the show, 2 for me.
exactly. I have to get my mistake, see, is that
That is good.
I go and do a lot of those mixed 6-packs. What I should start doing is get 2 of each.
Yes.
So that I don't have to make that difficult decision about do I drink this or save it for the show.
Well, we were talking last night because having these. I'm like, do you want to try one of these last night? He's like, no, I want to be surprised, come in, and not even do the profile.
They've all been really good
I really,
and really unique from each
I
other.
try to keep my reactions on the show as pure as possible. Like, I really actually don't look. I look over the show notes to make sure there's not anything that I need, but I really don't dig into the articles or anything like that because I like to have the reaction.
To be able to respond naturally, of course.
And it's fun that way because, you guys get to see me go, what? Or sometimes not react at all, which, is also fun, at least as far as I'm concerned. But but I think, no, it's entertaining to actually have the actual reaction. So.
Well, my reaction to this particular beer is that I really, really like this. And again, I skew towards, IPAs and beers of that type. So when I go in this direction, I want something that I really, really love, that really, really grabs me, and this does. This to me is one of the better examples of this style.
It's like a candy bar, though. It's like a Milky Way almost. It's like nougat and chocolate and caramel.
Yeah, even for a darker beer, you can still want to drink this in the summertime on a boat.
Yeah. A little Butterfinger vibe going on there. I like it.
It's pretty darn good.
It really, really, really is. Well, this has been fascinating going through some of these Michigan beers, and I'm so glad that you brought these down and gave us. I don't know that we would have had an opportunity to have a Great Turtle Brewing beer if you hadn't brought these down.
That's right.
Because this is not only something that we don't have here, but they don't even have it in all of Michigan.
No, I literally have to go to the island to get it.
Yeah, that's pretty darn cool. So if you are visiting Mackinac Island, this should be a destination for
Absolutely.
Both of those beers were outstanding.
you. Yeah, they really were. And there's a little more of this one, which I'm excited about. And then that.
The Kuhnhenn.
Yes, thank you. That was just absolutely
Beers with
exceptional.
distinct personalities, it says. Double Rice India Pale Ale made with American long grain rice and Pilsner malt. This ale is golden color and has an aggressive dry hop aroma with lots of hops on the finish. Mm-hmm. It was good. This was
really, really good.
This was the...
In fact, they've all been just really, really good
this
today.
was the surprise, though, because a double rice India Pale Ale, I had no idea.
And when I heard
delicious.
rice, I was my expectations were lowered.
Yeah,
quite frankly.
Por favor. Do you have any more in there?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, he pours that. We will take a break. We'll be back to wrap up the show and thank everyone. But thank you for being a part of Smoking and Toasting today. We will return shortly. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting, our program all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And we are thrilled to be making it all the way through show number 294. Our special guest, Michael Curtis, has been it's been fun being on the show with you, but I just got to say these beers you brought were all just really outstanding. Every
it
one
was
of
a
them.
team effort all the way.
Yeah.
I mean, your cousin Mark going around. I think part of it for me, thinking back, and this is kind of some of the shout-outs, when I moved from Michigan to Texas, and plug your ears, I'm sorry, but my family is a Bud Light family. Grew up with
it happens. It happens. I get it, yeah.
And when I came down here, breweries were popping up. My two closest friends, Wes and Schaefer, they got me on my comfort zone, and it was hard to pull away from that. And then you sit in these craft beers, but then you start to find out it's a destination spot. Whenever I'm traveling and I'm on the road, I want to look on the map. Where's the nearest brewery? Because I want to see what, like the Mackinac Fudge, what kind of profile of that area are they going to put into the spirit?
Absolutely right. That makes it different from what you can get anywhere else.
Exactly, and then 100%. It feels unique. And then, actually, sometimes I don't know if my brain is already thinking that way. It could be something really terrible, but you're like, but it was the coolest place I visited, and you're like,
right. Well, I will say that when you come from a Bud Light family, or you're looking and interested in breaking out of that comfort zone, there's a lot of things that can help you along that path. For me, Shiner Bock was the gateway beer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shiner Bock was the first beer that I drank that I thought, this is kind of better than the Miller Lights that I've been drinking. It's got more flavor to it, and it's not. And Shiner Bock, which I still enjoy to this day, but it's not this really, complex, really. I'm looking for the right word here.
Shiner Bock.
It's just this very straightforward dark ale.
Is the not fast food hamburger of craft beer.
Yeah.
It's like when you go to a place that's not fast food and you get a real good hamburger, that hamburger will change your world, because if that's the first not fast food hamburger.
I mean, you bring back, remember the first week I was here, that was the first different beer I tried was a Shiner Bock.
Right.
Yeah.
And even more interesting, we went to Pluckers, and you know how they had the Mother Pluckers style beer?
Yep.
I'm like so new, I'm thinking, I thought that was a type of beer. So I go up to the bartender, I'm like, I'll have 3 Mother Pluckers. He's like, what do you want in it? I'm like, well, a Mother Plucker. Because I didn't know it was like just the size of the glass.
Right.
Pluckers started off in Austin, and now they're actually in Houston too.
They're all over the
They're
place.
good wings.
Yeah, very.
They do have good wings. But for me, it was Shiner Bock, and then I moved to Shiner Bock, and then I had just started to get into St. Arnold Amber. And then I moved away from Houston. This was in the 90s. Moved away from Houston, wound up in Boston, Massachusetts, where I got a chance to try Harpoon IPA, and it was ubiquitous there. Like if you're in Texas, Shiner Bock, you know how
Everywhere, yeah.
It's everywhere. It's the one beer that's good at even places that don't have a good beer list, right? Yeah. And that's the way Harpoon IPA was when I was in Boston. It was everywhere, and I remember just learning to love that beer and how much flavor was in it, and then. After that, everything else opened up. Like I started trying
everything.
ESBs and stouts and porters and other kinds of things. Although I will admit, I really didn't try barley wines until I started doing this show with you.
I love barley.
And I got to give one more shout out to my Uncle JT, who was a brewmaster in New Hampshire. I believe it was Loon's Brewery or something to that one. He was a brewmaster at. And he's a cigar guy, so he's the one that got me into cigars.
Really enjoyed hanging out with him at the wedding.
I bet,
when
yeah.
him and my sister got married.
In fact, a new thing, I stopped at College Station and gave him each one of the beers. So he's going to be testing along. So this might be a first of listening and drinking at the same time. I thought that's going to be pretty cool.
We always encourage you to drink when you do listen to the show for several reasons. The first is because it makes us sound a lot better.
We'll make a lot more sense to you.
We make a lot more sense, especially by the time we get to drinking news. Like I said, it's stories that are always best enjoyed when you've been drinking. Really appreciate you coming on the show. This has been a lot of fun. Big happy birthday to Adam. Who is celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday, Adam.
Happy birthday, Adam. We miss you.
Thanks to Keegan, who's making the show so much better, and the stuff he's doing behind the scenes is awesome and incredible. And thank you, Keegan. It's wildly appreciated. All I do is sit here and drink and talk. That's it. And occasionally smoke when we have a show where we can be on location and smoke. So we'll look forward to that in the future. One more thing. We are not going to celebrate and make a big deal out of our 300th episode. We're going for 333. That's going to be
333 is going to be the number.
That's going to be our big celebration. We're very excited about it. That's when we're going to invite everybody to come back on who's been on the show. All guests will be welcome, and including
Bruce,
including the guy with the leaf blower.
We expect you.
Yeah.
333. Are we halfway there?
We are
now halfway
officially
to
halfway to 333.
Okay, I just want to check my counting.
Thank you for asking. I'm glad you are on top of that. And yes, Bruce, our number one super fan, I think, of Smoking and Toasting. Bruce, you are invited. If you can find a way to get down here for show 333, you will be the guest of honor of 333.
I say ride the back of with the turtle on with the bike, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, and Bruce, bring some beers with you because there's some good stuff going on up there.
I think there's going to be a few long-time listeners that I'm going to personally invite on.
I think that should be.
That goes for you, Josh. That goes for you, Ricky Bryan.
Yeah, it would be good for Josh to be invited because it would be great for him to actually see the show. Because I know that he's.
I keep threatening to bring him on as a guest.
Yeah, well, this would be a good time to do it, I think. Thank you guys for being a part of Smoking and Toasting. We do appreciate it. After all, only 4% of podcasts in the world are still around and did an episode last week.
That's amazing.
So we thank you for helping us to have done an episode last week, and off we go.
Do you have any connections you want to shout out?
Oh, no, I got them all there. Loved it. And lastly, Dad, if you have Bud Light, I will drink one with you because you got to do one with the old man.
Absolutely.
You do it with the old man.
No, that's the time when you do it, right? That's the time when you do it. That and when you're at the game and you can't find a stand with better beer.
You're gonna drink a Bud Light. You're gonna like the first quarter of it while it's still cold.
I was gonna say, let's hope it's really, really cold. Have a great week, my friends. We are looking forward to seeing you back for 295 next week, and I was able to get just a little bit to pour. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.